Previously on the history of Yu-Gi-Oh!, we looked at Monarch format and the first half of the 2016 metagame. Draco Pals, Monarchs, and PK Fire were running rampant up to the World Championship. A strict, exclusive ban list would severely hit the decks many were hoping would win, all in favor of the recently buffed Blue Eyes deck, which won the event piloted by the previous champion, Shunsuke Hayama. With a new set about to become legalized and an impending ban list, will the legendary Dragon of Destruction stay on top, or will new blood arise to combat Konami's champion? Prior to Worlds, the TCG would receive two sets that wouldn't be legal at the grandest stage. Said sets would be the booster set, Dragons of Legend Unleashed, that included a few new neat cards like Cyber Angel Benten, Numeron Dragon, and some of the Planet series from the GX manga, some of which would see upcoming play like Saturn and Monarchs and Mars and Gadgets. More importantly was the new core set, the Dark Illusion, on August 5th. If you liked the Blue Eye stuff from earlier, then boy howdy does this set fill your nostalgic needs. Dark Magician gets their long overdue support since they really haven't had anything of substance yet. The main strategy moving forward revolves around the continuous spell, Dark Magic Circle. This allows for deck digging and to banish opposing cards. In addition to all the other supports, DMs certainly got a buff. Some would try the deck throughout the years, such as Jeff Jones at YCS Minneapolis. However, the deck just had too many bricks, since you need key cards to get anything going. Aside from a few new introductory archetypes in Spiral, Subterror, and Paleozoic, the big new set of cards in regard to the contemporary meta has to be Metal Foes. I mean, meta is in their name. Wow, a normal-based Pendulum deck, who would have guessed? Dracos and Ignites must be jealous. This new archetype revolves around popping your own cards to search for powerful back row cards and help facilitate Metal Foes fusion to get into powerful, yet humble fusion monsters. Keep an eye out for this deck. The Dark Illusion would also feature plenty of singleton notables like Gofu, Floodgate Trap Hole, Lock Dragon, and True King Vanisher. Yes, I shortened it. But the big three, I would argue, are Shiranui Solitaire, a phenomenal zombie starter that can get easy access into Unizombie to help with extra deck plays, Cosmic Cyclone, a quick play back row banisher that contains different utility when compared to Twin Twisters or even MST, and Pot of Desires, a radical draw spell that makes you banish the top 10 cards of your deck face down to draw 2. Desires is right. If you desire draws that badly, then give up on seeing Pot Agreed again. This is your new friend. Or perhaps an enemy. For 2 cards is nice if you're willing to take the risk and banish potentially needed cards. And they're face down, so you can't grab them back by typical means, say, as a random example, Different Dimension Reincarnation. Dark Illusion was anything but an illusion. These cards are real, and they will have an impact. Just like that, the new list would drop on August 29th. This would be a list of all time, as it had general hits to all the top decks. Though limiting Dark Destroyer was a choice, considering Allure of Darkness and Gold Sark just both got unlimited, which helps Cosmo. And Dante, yeah, he avoids the list like the plague. Same can't be said for Beatrice, however. That said, the message was clear. There would be a new meta, as Monarchs and Friends would not be the same heading into September 2016. The first event of the new age would be YCS Mexico City on September 17th. Meta-wise, this was anything but defined, as the top cut would feature a variety of decks like Blue Eyes, Zombie, and even a Soul Dynomist deck. What? Yet it would be the new Metal Foes deck that would take first. It featured various Pendulum tech to help get there, like Cleforts that helped get into Cyber Dragon Infinity, and Jaugen the Spiritualist that ultimately benefits the resilient Pendulum monsters. The list did its job. We are certainly in a new format, even if previous decks remained. Even still, new releases would not stop, like with the Legendary decks too, that would include a couple key releases, like Eternal Soul, which helped Dark Magicians out, and Ties of the Brethren. Ties would be nice to set up plays with lower level monsters. This would primarily benefit Magic Spectre coming to the next YCS at Minneapolis. which Metal Foes would also win once again since Jougin, the Brethren do not like. I suppose Konami was on a tear with nostalgic decks and ironically moving forward at the same time, just like the Janjo zone. For on October 21st, duelists could get their hands on the new Yugi and Kaiba structure decks that strayed away from the recent expansions of Blue Eyes and Dark Magician. This was in favor of Magnet Warriors and Unions. Magnets would be a great casual deck that was a bit slow, a tad bricky, and certainly resource intensive, but still strong when it popped off. Whereas the new ABC archetype, an offshoot of XYZ, was similar without the same issues. The deck was fast, lenient, and most definitely powerful. Its key pieces were all synergistic, and their boss monster, an ABC Dragon Buster, could pop a card and avoid effects by swapping back into its pieces, furthering combo potential. Plus, the field spell Union Hanger tied it all together by getting those unions out easier, something the ability had previous trouble with. On top of the deck having great inherent machine support like the recently released Gold and Silver gadgets and Gear Gigantex. The impact of ABC would be immediate when looking at YCS Liverpool only 8 days later. Evidently, the previous Dragon deck had been busted, but despite the 14 ABC decks in top 32, it was PK Fire that would win against a reworked pile, Minerva Turbo. This new Lightsworn variant took a plethora of extenders like Trick Clown, Photon Thrasher, and Unizombie to get into a slew of primarily rank 4s, which included Minerva, the previous prize card up till June. Minerva is an excellent card that made this deck hard to build since it was only available in limited quantities that duelists could no longer obtain by conventional means. Still, it was clear that ABC was the perceived threat as the first place PK Fire would main deck Chaos Hunter, a monster that stops the banishing of cards, which completely neuters a Union deck. And if you're enjoying this video, consider dropping a like, a sub if you haven't, or joining my Patreon for early bird access, exclusive videos, and just to generally support the Janjo zone. Still, stagnation would not be a word associated with this format as a new core set graces Duelist presence. On November 4th, we get Invasion, Vengeance, an important set by any metric. Firstly, there'd be a lot of support for recently introduced archetypes, including Paleozoic, Spiral, and Metal Foes. The latter gained more interaction than before and combo potential, thanks to 2 new fusions and a new fusion spell. Reminds me of when Shadal's got additional support. And Full Metal Foes Alcahest? I know what you're doing, Konami. You can't fool me. Dimensional Barrier would also be a key card here since it locks a summoning mechanic for a turn and negates any on-field effects of the selected type. It's a great counter to any deck focusing on a single summon type, especially if we're running a different strategy. But if we're going to discuss a single card here, it has to be Totally Awesome. No, that's the card, Totally Awesome. What a name. Whether it's called that, or Mochi Toad, or Treat Toad, one can't help but see this new Rank 2 Xyz as a powerful new tool thanks to its Aqua-based Omni-Negate effect. Paleozoic with all their finalized tools would love this card in their inherent level 2 Aqua deck. Likewise, rank 4 decks could make use of Toad thanks to Bahamut Shark, which can't get Toad out, and Toad can send itself for a single negate. Heroes would use this method and fashion into a new build called Awesome Hero. Clearly, Konami had 0 frogs given. The YCS throughout the rest of 2016 would be a story of format settling, and also the sidebar of when Konami changed Frog the Jam to Slime Toad. It starts with YCS Rio de Janeiro, where ABC was still showcased as the deck, with Metal Foes being the premium Pendulum deck. Paleo Frogs would show up here as the Frog engine worked beautifully with, well, the Toad. Shocking, I know. The deck revolved around the trap monsters that had unique effects to control the board, like back row removal, banishing, flipping cards face down, etc. A trap deck sounds slow, but the Frog engine adds needed proactiveness to the strategy, and then Totally Awesome creates the win condition. Since Paleos are traps, one could run other powerful traps to confuse and disrupt the opponent. TLDR, they grind like heck and revolve around the current best Xyz monster in the game, Scary stuff. Though some were displeased since they were hoping ABC's success and wider availability would lower the price on the hot new XZs. Even YCS Anaheim on November 26 would balance the meta out to be a Big 3 format with ABC, Metal Foes, and Paleo. Not even the recent Destiny Soldiers pack would make any significant waves aside from some cheeky Dark Lord decks. Really, it was Desires that decided some matches, as if Paleo lost key frogs, then well, that was it for them. In that regard, some started to turn on ABC for its power and consistency, which was compared to Paleo's high risk, high reward. Perhaps others were salty that anyone could pick up 3 structure decks and start playing competitively in relation to those who spent money on other contending decks. Shades of Monarch? The meta would finally settle on December 10th's YCS Bochum, where the Big 3 would evolve into a rather diverse environment, or at least it was similar to recent formats. This time, Metal Foes would once again take the gold, piloted by Billy Brake, defeating Joshua Schmidt's Paleo Frogs. Still, the top 32 had a variety of decks, including Awesome Hero, Blue Eyes, Minerva Turbo, Mermail, and the ever-mysterious Others. What would be known as Invasion format was another relatively fun time for Yu-Gi-Oh! At the very least, it was a refresh of the meta. We saw plenty of new decks, as well as some legacy decks holding on, so your pet deck wasn't dead per se, and you had options for different affordability and playstyles. Look at some of the top decks from this time: ABC, Paleo Frog, Awesome Hero, Metal Foes, Blue Eyes, PK Fire, Minerva Turbo, and Magispector, with other competent decks being Mermail, Shiranui Zombie, DD, Dark Synchro, Cyber Herald, Dark Lord, Cosmo, and Yang Zing, or however you want to organize them all on a tier list. 2016 was great as a whole, despite there being some annoying and pricey cards. Not everyone could afford Toad or Desires, but that was the beauty of the structure decks and general push for more archetypes and sets. Was it a method to start pricing out players whilst throwing a bone once in a while? Maybe, in the sense of how important the negation or draw power of this period was. On the other hand, it wasn't critical to play these decks on a base level like PK Fire or Metal Foes. The rest of the deck was still there. This is all to say good times can't last forever as we enter 2017 Yu-Gi-Oh! And that'll be a story for another time. Duel on, passionate duelist!